All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of the New Breed Podcast, the world's first, best, and only podcast talking about new metal. I am your co-host, Jay Horskow. With me, I have the notorious TIM, Tim Anderson Jr. Tim, how are you?
I'm great, man. How are you?
I am fantastic. So let's go in. So the last couple episodes, we did a deep dive on the first two Korn albums. So truth be told, Tim and I were talking about this episode. We were going to do Follow the Leader. But somehow we got into a very spirited conversation around the first Limp Bizkit album, so we called it audible. So this episode is going to be a deep dive track by track into the first Limp Bizkit album, $3 Bill Y'all. So before we get started, Tim, I'm going to ask you, obviously you listened to the album in the run-up to this episode.
3 times.
When's the last time you listened to that before we started recording?
Years and years ago, man. Like probably 2012, maybe.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I listen to Significant Other a lot, though.
Well, I think we're going to end up doing one of those deep dives too as well. I can't remember the last time I listened to this, so this was an interesting ride for me because I didn't recall a lot of the songs. I remember looking at the titles and going, that kind of sounds familiar, but I can't picture it in my head. Yes. I'm going to go out and limb. And here's where the hot takes come in. I think it's actually better than I remember it. The album is better than I remember it. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I think it's actually better than Significant Other.
No.
And I'll wait till we cover Significant Other to explain why. But I think this is it's as abrasive, if not more abrasive, as I thought it was going to be. And after, I guess, listening on a good pair of headphones, because back when this came out, I was a fucking college kid. I was listening to fucking cheap Sony Walkman headphones. I picked up on a lot more than I would have normally. So what are your thoughts, Tim? Did it hold up?
No,
or no?
Not at all. I think it's a terrible record. I'm gonna lie, man.
All right, so we'll unpack that more when we go through the tracks. But I want to ask you, what was your favorite back when you first got the album, right? What was your favorite track then? What was the track that stood out to you back the first couple times you heard it?
Hold on one second because I forget the name of it. Definitely Pollution.
Okay.
That was that, and that is probably still my favorite track when I listened to it the last 3 times.
Okay. For me, the two that always stuck out in my head, for whatever reason, it was Clunk and Leech.
Oh,
and
it's like the kind of like the last couple tracks or something.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, if our listeners are paying attention, if it's Tim, maybe somebody should go back and once we get a dedicated fan, they go back and chart our responses. I typically like the second half better than the first on many albums. I don't know why, which is weird because usually it's all filler and throwaway, and we need to put another track in there. Let's scrape this one off the fucking floor.
Yeah, right. This album is just bad in the second half.
So I disagree, but I'll save it for when we go track by track. But before we get started on that, Tim, what was your least favorite track back then? Back when you didn't, this album is a steaming pile of horse dung.
My least favorite?
Yeah.
I couldn't really say it's my least favorite, but that Indigo Flow track is terrible. Stinkfinger's terrible. Well, as we go track by track, I'll explain it. You know what I mean?
All right. So with that being said, let's go in. First song is obviously the intro. We're not going to cover that off.
Can we? Let's do a little bit of more hot takes here first.
Okay.
I don't want this episode to end too quick because there's good stuff in this one. So, like I said before, my hot take was it did not hold up at all. Fred Durst is a whiny son of a bitch, man. He has a very annoying voice on this record. It's just extra whiny in this record. I guess I never realized it till now. Like when I went back and listened to it at work a couple times, and today, I'm like, Jesus Christ, he's whiny, man. And the second half of this record, it's just extra terrible, in my opinion. Terrible lyrics on this record. Like, it's just child lyrics, man.
But I will say this, though, Tim. Child lyrics, that's basically a nu metal stereotype, right? Everybody was being beat up. Everybody had somebody to complain about. So you're right. It is very juvenile, right?
It's very, very juvenile. I will say, though, the production is great.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The bassist and drummer have the best chemistry of a lot of, like, if in a lot of bands, their chemistry is amazing on this record, though.
Mm.
In my opinion, it has to be one of the biggest debut records of all time for a band in this genre. Also, I think Fred is probably the most hated singer of all time. He has to be. Like, even the band is probably one of the most hated bands of all time. But
Which is funny because they still draw, though, right? If you look at some of their YouTube videos, they still draw.
They do, but it's more of the kids who are like, I only listen to hardcore, or I only listen to death metal, or you know what I mean? It's that crowd. It's the new metal hate crowd. At the same time, though, they're one of the biggest new metal bands of all time, and even though this record wasn't the best musically, like I said, it's one of the biggest debuts of all time. I mean, you have to.
So I will give you the nasally whiny lyrics. So I remember picking up this album from an end cap at Tower Records back when they still existed. We're dating ourselves here. And I remember for some reason my parents were away. It was a summer of in between college years, and I had the house to myself. So I put it on, and I'm blasting it through my dad's sound system. And my parents had an amazing stereo unit because my mom was a big music fan. And I remember, to your point, my initial reaction being, this guy's voice is fucking terrible. Like, he's just screechy and yowly. But I went, they're going to be fucking massive. For whatever reason, it just and I'm embarrassed to say this, Tim. You could punch out of this fucking interview right now if you want. First time I heard the Spice Girls, I thought the same thing. This is fucking atrocious. It's going to be huge, and I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe I missed my calling to be a fucking A&R guy. But you're right. He's nasally, and every song is about, being disrespected and somebody treating you like shit, aside from the one song where he whines about being dumped, and it's one of the worst songs on the album. But I think, let me ask you this, Tim, before we go track by track. If you replace Fred Durst in the lyrics, right? You take him out of the band, right? His voice and his lyrical content, and you put in someone like a Jesse Leach from Killswitch, or someone who's got more pipes, does it work better?
No.
Why?
He's made for the band.
Okay.
See, I'm going to sound like a hypocrite here, even though I don't really like his vocals. I like his vocals on Significant Other, don't get me wrong. I think that's an amazing record. This record, without Fred, it doesn't, you just don't have Limp Bizkit. It's same with Korn. If you don't have Jonathan Davis, you don't have Korn.
You don't think the musicianship of like Borland and the back line of Rivers and Otto, you don't think it would make up for having a less nasally? Okay.
I think Fred is Limp Bizkit. I think they're just the background, to tell you the truth. That would be my opinion on that. I mean, I have a quote from a couple people here, which is funny. So, like, they're saying that Durst has arguably held the title of music's most hated singer for 2 decades. On Limp Bizkit's 2000 track, Take a Look Around, he invited the hate in. Now all the critics want to hit it just because they don't get it. But I'll stay fitted. Anyway, so people from like a couple bands on here, like the dude from Papa Roach said he blamed Durst for nu metal's negative image. Which is hilarious, man.
That's terrible.
Well, yeah, who's that? His name's Jacoby
Shaddix or something, yeah.
And then the bassist from Rage Against the Machine said he wants to apologize for that band, for how terrible they are. Dude, I was fucking crying at that shit, man.
What a dick.
Yeah, it's just funny, but like I always thought they were the most hated, but it's just funny when I was reading interviews, like people were like, yeah, he's a jerk off. Like he was a douchebag. Like he's a wannabe this, wannabe, we'll use the term. We can't use the term on here, but you know what I'm saying? He was, W-word.
But the other side of that is Steve Jobs is the example. Douchebaggery gets you somewhere if you have a vision and you stick to it.
Yeah.
And you're right, more so with Limp Bizkit than with, say, Korn, where that was really, you put the 5 of those guys in a room and magic happened. This really was Durst using his outsized, obnoxious personality to drag the band with him, even though they're all talented musicians. I can see that. Yeah.
Wes is an amazing guitar player. Don't get me wrong, man. Let's just get a couple more of the facts out of the way because I feel like some people don't know this kind of shit. I have a whole like thing here of just shit. So it was released July 1st, 97 by Flip and Interscope Records. So that I thought this came out way before 97, honestly. A lot of people say this is like a fuse of hip hop and metal. Do you think it's just hip hop, or do you think it's more of like a? I mean, yeah, I guess it's hip hop, but do you think it's more of like a groove, just more of a groove sound?
Yes. Again, it comes back to Rivers and Otto. Like they get in a pocket where they play well together. You're right. It's a great 1-2 back line. The only hip hop comparison I see is the lyric flow, right? Because he does rapping. But then again, so did Zach De La Rocha. Hate to piss people off, but so did Zach. Yeah. And the obvious, there's the one song, I think it might be Sour, whatever. There's a lot of like hip hop interludes and that sort of thing, which again, with DJ Lethal being in the band, that makes sense, right? Like there's obviously going to be a little bit of bleed there.
Yeah, definitely. I guess we can get the obvious out of the way. It was produced by Ross Robinson. I guess people knew that. He got introduced to the band from Fieldy from Korn, who persuaded him to listen. Here's the thing I wanted to talk about too. If Fieldy doesn't tell Ross about Limp Bizkit, are they as big as they are? You know what I mean? That's kind of the point I wanted to ask. And I guess people listening, like they could, put it in on the group page or email or whatever.
I don't know.
newbreedpodcast@gmail.com. You can get on there and do that.
I don't know, Tim. I think they inevitably would have been signed, maybe not in first wave, maybe in the second wave, right? When people realized that nu metal was a thing. Yeah. But I don't know what they would sound like without Ross Robinson. Like we were talking about before we started, I don't even know what any of their catalog without him sounds like. So I have nothing to compare it to.
Well, he didn't do Significant, right?
Nah, did he or didn't he? Nah, he didn't?
No. That's not on the list. He didn't do Significant Other.
Well, you know what? That probably explains, and we can maybe tie this back to a future episode, why Follow the Leader and Significant Other broke both Korn and Limp Bizkit.
Yeah.
Ross has an ear for a band, but we're going to dive in his catalog next. I think maybe he can only take them so far. You know what I mean? When it comes to mainstream acceptance for whatever reason, people just something he puts out in the ecosystem, in the news sphere, whatever, it just doesn't stick.
I think his vision for keeping it underground is perfection, to tell you the truth. I think he knows how to take an underground band and put them in the stratosphere of another producer who's bigger, saying, I could take this band even bigger. Kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he kind of did it with Glassjaw, even though he did the second record too. But we'll get into that a little bit later and stuff. But I do know that from reading stuff, like he wasn't even going to do the band at first, but he I guess he heard Pollution and all that, and he was just like, you know what, I could do something with this band. So, and then I also read that they kicked Wes Borland out of the band before they were going to record.
I did catch that. I forgot where I saw that article. They kicked him out, then they had him back.
Yeah. They wrecked their van or something, and they had a dispute with the first label. I guess Mojo was going to sign them, and they had a dispute. And I guess going to Interscope or something, they
couldn't hurt
or something.
Didn't hurt at all. That's another thing, Tim, right? Landing on Interscope. If someone smaller puts this album out, does it get the attention
exactly
that it gets?
Get to that, yeah. I mean, how do you not even have anything recorded and Interscope signs you? That's just crazy to me. So I guess Ross's, direction and Ross's name kind of, even though he only did two big records before this. So
yeah.
So I mean, who knows? But a couple other facts here, like the whole Counterfeit song is about the band copying off from Florida and all that stuff, and which is weird because how could they copy off them if they weren't even established yet? Which I don't get. So
I don't know.
And then most of the songs are about girlfriends fucking them over and all that stuff. And of course, you have the George Michael cover, which we're going to talk about, which I have a hot take on that also. But
man, this might be the first episode, Tim, where you and I are completely in polar opposites when it comes to an opinion of an album. This is going to be an interesting one.
Right. And then there's another thing. In 98, they gave $5,000 to a Portland radio station, which was KUFO, which
I remember that, the pay to play.
Yeah, the pay to play. They played it 50 times. And there was like a huge uproar about that. But at the same time, that probably, you know what I mean? A whole area over there, because Portland is huge. So.
But it always happened, right? Speaking of Portland, we're going to take a weird left turn here, Tim. Did you watch that documentary of the DJ who broke? He was out of Portland. He broke grunge. He broke electronica. Did you ever see that documentary?
No,
during one of the breaks, I'll find the name. It was on like Red Bull TV, but the guy had a really bad drug problem. And he was interviewing to be on MTV, and apparently like he went out partied the night before and missed the interview. But it was the same DJ that broke Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, that also then turned around and broke Crystal Method, Chemical Brothers, all that Prodigy, all that sort of stuff. Like he was truly ahead of his time. I'll find the name during the break and I'll give it back to you.
It's funny about they're all like good stuff. I used to listen to all that stuff back in the day, all the electronic stuff. So I still have a good ear for it every now and then.
Still do, man. That's a whole nother episode. We can go down the weeds.
Yeah, yeah. So I also like to get in the metal show. I love to do this stuff. So I guess I can add it in here. Like I love the whole how many records it kind of sold thing. So first week was 170,000 records. That's crazy, man. First week, 170,000. Like
right.
And so that's a huge feat. So obviously people were listening and interested in the band. So I mean, and back then they got great reviews and all that shit. Like people were giving it 10 out of 10s all the time. Also, the album in 2001 went double platinum. So it only took 4 years to go double platinum.
That's fucking wild.
Yeah.
That's wild. And 2001 was right about the high water mark for nu metal. So, yeah.
And also, when the song comes up, I'll tell you why it went double platinum, in my opinion. So,
okay. So we'll use that segue to go into the tracks themselves.
Yeah.
So we're obviously going to skip the first track. It's an intro. It's all background noise, whatever. It's Fred Durst screaming and yelling. Then we go into track number 1, Pollution. Hell of an opener. I think it's a hell of an opener. The fact that it starts with Wes dragging the pick down the upper strings, I'm like, okay, I can fucking get down behind that. You can tell right out the gate that when you listen to it, it's thick, but it's not muddy. And meaning that the bass is right there. The guitar tone doesn't overpower to the point where it gets lost. But I will say that I do think that the turntable piece stuff, the first couple times I listened to this album back in the day, I didn't catch it, but now I guess with a good pair of headphones, I do. There's a lot more scratching and sampling and shit going on than one would believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right.
But I mean, I think it's a hell of an opener. I will tell you though, every time I get to the end of the song, and it's that where the music cuts out and it's him still fucking yelling, I want to lean through my fucking headphones and just fucking choke him out because it's like
screaming back like a million times. It's fucking annoying. You're right. Note wise for this, I have it. You can hear the funk in the band, like the genre funk. Like they put a lot of the funk in it, and this track has a lot of that in it. It's also really fucking whiny too. Like this is when I heard it, I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's like, did he go through puberty yet? For Christ's sake, like scratches, his voice is high as hell. Just awful lyrics. Don't get me wrong, I can't write lyrics for shit, but it's just awful lyrics. And then I wrote, he said back too many times. He really so annoying.
Man, you were going to let that one fucking go, huh?
I have to give you the straight up on the record. I mean, there's going to be records I hate. There's going to be records I love, but I want to talk about all of them. So
all in all, I mean, going back through it, I did like it. Again, I said I liked it better than when I initially listened to it. I just thought I think it's a hell of an opener, right? It establishes them real quickly. Yeah. That's what this album is going to sound like. And that, I don't want to say urgency because that's a cheesy, I don't think the adjective fits, but there's almost a drive to it that they run through almost to the point where it hits that one fucking song in the middle that's too long. Stalemate, I think it is. It's like 6 minutes or something. Yeah. It runs to that point, much like when we talked about Korn, where I said it was a clown, divine, faggot, back to back to back, right? It's a hell of a run. This you have Pollution and then Counterfeit Stuck, Nobody Loves Me. Okay, we're good. Like that's a hell of a run right there.
It is, yeah. I mean, they're the best songs on the record.
Okay. So coming off of Pollution, we go to Counterfeit. This was, I think, was this the first single, Tim?
Yes, it was.
Okay. When I think of this song, you know what I think of? I think of MTV Spring Break Fashion Show 98.
How do you remember that?
Because I remember I didn't go to, I was a frat guy in college, don't hold it against me. And I didn't go on spring break. I was working. I think my mom was actually sick or something, but, I was working, and I remember catching this hour because it was 2 songs from Limp Bizkit, and it was 2 songs from Pitch Shifter, 2 bands off of www.pinchshifter.com, which I think is it's still a fucking great album. We can probably go in on that one too. But I remember this song sticking out for that reason. I also think Wes's guitar part is amazingly jangly to the point where it's great. You have that breakdown in the middle where you have the bass come in from Sam Rivers.
Yep.
There's a healthy amount of scratching, right, from DJ Lethal at the end. I again, well, you're right. It is one of, if not the best song on the album.
Yeah, it's my number 2 on the record. I guess this is a song about Florida bands ripping them off. It's probably also their most popular song ever. It has to be. Other than
on the first album, yes, I would say so. Yeah,
it has to be. It's definitely the song that got my attention first when I first heard the band. So I will hold it in a high regard, if that makes sense, because it's the song I heard and I was like, oh, this is pretty decent at the age. Don't get me wrong, it's a decent song now. I just don't think it holds up. This is a song everybody knows. I mean, except for Faith. So,
right. Well, again, it was the lead-up single. This was the one that I think they did a video for, although I can't recall it if my life depended on it. I can't recall it.
I'm pretty sure they did. And this song has most of the nu metal riffs in it, like all the harmonic parts in it and stuff. It's definitely the most nu metal track on the record, in my opinion.
Yes, I will give you that. So speaking of that, Tim, slight aside, I was thinking this week because I texted Tim listeners earlier in the day and I said, dude, I fucking hate you. I've done nothing but listen to nu metal for the past month and a half. I think one of the things that when I look back on nu metal, I'm so fascinated by is, and I think we might have talked about this in the previous episode, everything goes. Everything goes. You want to add a second percussionist and have him play like fucking bongos, like fucking Power Man? Let's fucking do it. You want to add horns and do some ska shit like The Urge? Let's fucking do it. So that to me was really one of the things that sticks out in my mind. Like for these guys, they grabbed a fucking DJ. They had guys who played jazz and hip hop, so they have some semblance of rhythm. And then you have the total lunatic Wes Borland who knows his way around a fretboard.
Absolutely.
It works. It just works.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's a great riff writer, so.
So after Counterfeit, we start getting into and another thing, Tim, the song lengths bounce around. So we have a couple 3 minutes, a couple of 5 minutes. There's the one long track, which I think is terrible. And then the album closer is way too long because they have a hidden track, and everybody did that back then. So it's not even like it fucking matters. But after Counterfeit, we have Stuck, track number 4, which this is the one that starts with the bass intro. Right, yes. Rivers is playing almost like a. It sounds like a stand-up. I know it's not stand-up, but it sounds like he's playing a stand-up bass. This, I think, has, aside from that terrible track Indigo Flow, has a very healthy hip hop representation in the sound. Because even when John Otto comes in, it's a backbeat. You can tell he's playing on a backbeat. So I good song because it goes from the hip hoppy piece to that real aggressive chorus.
Yeah.
So to me, holds up.
Yeah, you know what? In my notes, and I wrote these notes out Thursday, and I just printed them today, and I didn't change it. And I guess as of Thursday when I listened to this, I thought this was the best track on the record. I went back, and it has to be Pollution. But this is a very good track, and I think the 3 tracks in a row we just talked about now are the best tracks on the record. In notes for this, I said probably the best track on the record. Love the riffs. It's got very good screams in it. See, that's the thing about Fred. He's a very good screamer.
Yes.
His range for screaming is very good, but he doesn't come back very good to the, like, his voice back then just didn't hold up to come back to the regular talking, rapping kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
It didn't blend well. So I guess when he recorded this, they didn't do takes or something and change them up. He just went right in and right out of it. So, which is cool to me because I like when bands do that on the fly kind of stuff instead of going in and, you know what, oh, let's do this part and that part kind of thing separately. I think you get more aggression and I think you get more of a live good sound. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. There is a definitive difference, whether you can tell it consciously or not, when a band records live versus when they do. Everybody's in the room at a different time. They play to a click track, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
When we'll eventually dive into, we're going to touch on it with Ross Robinson. When we eventually do the Slipknot, Inevitable Slipknot self-titled deep dive, they recorded that in the same studio, 9 dudes, all on tape, no click.
Oh, wow.
So can you imagine, right, trying to keep that madness, right? Like that's what I guess that's why the album always sounds like it's about to come off the rails in 30 seconds. In 30 seconds, I think it's going to go flying off the rails off a cliff.
I can't wait to talk about that record.
It's that one I actually, since you sent me down this fucking nu metal rabbit hole, I keep meaning to listen to that, and then I keep putting it down because I'm saying, you know what? I gotta not listen to it until Tim and I say we're gonna talk about it, because then I'll give it a fresh set of ears.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't want to dig in. So, Stuck's great track. Again, shows off the musicianship of everybody. It's good in a series. The way they did sequencing, you and I have talked about with Korn. Album sequencing is a big deal. So we go from Pollution to Counterfeit to Stuck to Nobody Loves Me, which one of my favorite songs on the album.
Yeah, I actually have in my notes too another standout track on the record. I mean, it wasn't my favorite, but it's definitely a standout track.
Yes. The whole, what is it? You suck is what he yells right as they go into the breakdown. Yes.
Yeah.
And then there's the breakdown is again, because we're at nu metal. It's DJ Lethal scratching. I thought it was a great song. And again, the other thing that you think about, I think about these guys is the songs are put together well. They flow. It's not like it's a jangly verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus, or like a typical, the way a typical song flow, like it's not that simple to identify. Maybe it's because they have a fucking DJ, which adds a fifth dimension. But I find the way that they built the structure, especially in these first couple songs, they go great. And when they end, it takes you right into the next one.
Yeah. But I kind of think that energy, I kind of feel that energy went away as the record, progressed.
Okay, I don't agree, and we'll wait till we get to like some of the for lack of a better double entendre clunkier tracks, because I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot when they did the typical, like we talked about with Life is Peachy, right? Yeah. When you have the guest track, the cover, the guest track, whatever sense of momentum you were building at the time, it just goes the fuck away. It just goes away.
Yeah, exactly. You're right.
So after Nobody Loves Me, we come to, I think, one of the not good songs on the album, Sour. Funnily enough, one of the shorter songs. And like we were talking about, Tim, I think early on, this was the one song where it's not him being the tough guy or talking about people hating him. This is him whining about a girl who did him wrong.
Yeah.
And this is the slow one, right? A lot of slap bass. There's a funk bass to it.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the music in the track for sure. I mean, there's a lot of, I listen to hip hop, so there's a lot of hip hop influence in this record. I mean, I think it's a good track. It's just not one of the standouts for me.
Absolutely.
I do want to go back to Nobody Loves Me real quick though. Like,
okay.
I wrote down like the one thing he says, like at the end, he says like, maybe I'll go eat some worms. And it's like, what are you talking about, dude?
Oh, that's the old Nobody Loves Me. Everybody hates me. I'm going to garden and eat worms. You never heard that?
No. So I'm an asshole.
You're not an asshole. It was on some, oh my God, was that Looney Tunes or something? Or maybe, Tim, I'm just showing my fucking age, right? Because yeah, we're gonna skip that. But yeah, that's where that's from.
Okay, so I'm showing my age into. There you go. Edit that out.
No, keep that in. It's funny.
Funny.
So we went from eating worms to Sour.
Yeah.
To do you have anything else to say about Sour, Tim?
No. I mean, it's a decent track. Like I said, now we're going to get into the parts where I'm just like, I could skip every track after this, basically.
So I will agree, but I will say you can't skip every track. You can almost skip every other. So let's start with, this is track 7. This is Stalemate. This is the longest full track on the album, in over 6 minutes.
Yeah.
I would love to get Fred Durst on this show and ask him where that song came from. Because if you look at the previous songs that lead up to it and then what comes after it, it's a weird outlier. Like, who do you know that sticks the longest song right in the middle?
Yeah, not many.
I mean, the only one that comes, the only other example I can think of at the top of my head, Tim, is "And Justice for All." The title track is like 15 minutes, but that's the second song on the album, so they get that out of the way early. And granted, that album is a long album. Most of those songs are between 5 and 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Did you ever think about that? Fucking Harvester of Sorrow was like a 7-minute song. That's fucking bananas.
I'm not the biggest fan of Metallica, as you know, so I don't really know.
I got a meme to send you later. It's going to melt your brain. All right, don't let me forget. Yeah, fuck that guy, Lars Ulrich. So moving along from Stalemate, we go into Clunk, which I actually think is one of the better songs in the album, and here's why.
Well, hold on a second. Stalemate, I have written down that Fred, that's the most annoying his voice is in the whole record right there. That song. It's
why? Is it because
annoyingly whiny?
Is it because the music doesn't fit it, or
annoyingly whiny? Like, just, I don't know. He's just whined a lot in that track, and I'm just like, it gave me like I was just like, you know what I mean? That face, like, oh God, turn this off.
I know this is bad audio, but Tim is making bitter beer face right now. I don't understand why you plop a 6-minute song at the halfway point of your album.
Yeah, it makes
sense. And it's not like it's a fast one that's going the whole time. So, what? Hey, do your thing. Where were we? Where was I running us to? Clunk. Yep. I like it because, first of all, the stop-start, the stump dum 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 dum. I like that almost staccato sound, and then you have Lethal filling in what would be drum fills, right, or drum runs. I like the fact that there's a healthy amount of scratching in there. I just like that very heavy, I guess almost syncopation, and then it leads in with Wes doing almost like not a dive bomb, right, like a whammy bar dive bomb, but it's almost like a descending plane riff. That sealed it for me.
Yeah, that is a good part of the song. I think that's a terrible track, though.
You like it?
Nah, I think it's one of the worst tracks on the record, honestly. It's just terrible to me. It's like I said, like back then, like I loved all of this record, but now I guess the more mature I got, I'm just like, ugh, like this record's just not good.
Okay, so
I could literally, after the 4th, 5th track, just be like, all right, turn that off.
Okay, now we're starting to diverge because coming out of Clunk, we have, this is so weird. This was the 4th single that they released. This is the song that got them on the radio and got them in front of everybody. It's the cover of George Michael's Faith.
Yeah.
Which I vaguely remember the video. This was when I first put this on that giant stereo system my dad had. I remember getting to this song and where I originally thought his voice is really like, I was listening to this going, are you fucking kidding me? Like,
yes.
What?
I despise this song.
I fucking love it because it makes no sense, right? Like it would be like you and I in a brutal death metal band covering fucking Enya's "Sail Away." It's just so completely which I think we could probably do, Tim. Make a note of that. We'll do that later. It's so amazingly incongruent and doesn't fit that it kind of does.
I get what you're saying, but to me, it's a terrible song. I'd rather listen to the fucking original, and that's even terrible. I never liked this song back then. I'll never like it. But I will agree, if they didn't do this song on the record, they wouldn't be as big as they were.
Absolutely.
They got the attention. And at first, Ross didn't want to put this song on the record. He said it was dumb, like, why are you even doing this? But I guess they kind of talked him into it, which was good for him, because I guess nowadays, if he thinks about it, like, I'm assuming being the producer of the record, he gets money for this record, right? Like,
yeah, back then it was points. So whatever it sold, he got a piece of.
So I'm assuming he's doing well off of that still.
When we go, and I think that's the next episode we're going to record, when we go through the Ross Robinson deep dive, when you think about the money that was flying around at that time in the music industry, the recording industry, not the music industry, the recording industry, and the albums that he knocked out back to back to back to back to back, like he can afford to be a weird dirt bike guy from Barstow. He can afford it now, right? Because what the fuck, right?
Right.
I do.
And it's cool that you said the recording industry and not the music industry, because there's a huge difference between 97 and 2020 with that.
Yes.
Because now you don't have a recording industry if you think about it, because you can do it at home. You know
no,
what I mean?
it's a music industry. It's a music industry. I mean, I swear that one of the coolest technological innovations I have seen, especially when it comes to music, is fucking Bandcamp. I think Bandcamp is brilliant. And every time they make an announcement that, hey, we're going to waive all of our fees, I go out and I fucking clean my wish list out. And my wife wants to go crazy because she's going, what the fuck? You have $40 of $1 charges on Bandcamp. What are you doing?
Yep.
Love it. Love it. Anyway, so getting back to the task at hand here. So we talked about them covering George Michael. Tim hates it. I still fucking love it. It's completely incongruous for me. It works. Then we go into these next two tracks. I think, Tim, if you don't mind, we can cover them together. They're a total of 5 minutes, and I think they're ultimately forgettable.
They're terrible. Yeah.
You have Stinkfinger, which I don't know how they did that and not – well, was this before Tool? Yes. So Tool Stinkfinger is better than Limp Bizkit Stinkfinger. Even no matter what you think about Tool, Tim, Maynard's out there right now fucking stomping on grapes.
No, I like Tool. I just like making fun of them. I think
the Tool version is better because this song I barely remember. And Indigo Flow again, and this was a new metal thing, right? They have guests and they have funny covers and they have wacky interludes, and it was almost a stereotype. And it's Christian and Dino, right? Yeah. Even still,
no, I think it was Christian and fucking no, it was the singer and the bassist. They said, right?
Burton.
Yeah.
Okay.
It might who the fuck?
I don't remember. I fast forward the song every time it comes on because I don't want to listen to it.
I was actually surprised when they said Fear Factory in there. I was like, huh? But then I went back and I'm like, oh yeah, Ross did Concrete. So
yeah. Interesting story about that album. We're going to get to next episode. That story itself is really fascinating.
Yeah, so speaking of Fear Factory, do we do Digimortal? Is that a new metal record? I mean, I don't like calling one of my favorite bands something like that.
I think so because, like we were talking about earlier, if we're going to do Digimortal, which I think we should, we already talked about doing Glassjaw, which is not new metal, but that's at the acid of new metal, and it's a Ross Robinson joint. We joked about how one of our buddies, Dan, talked about Slither, which is as close to new metal that Earthquake Scott. I think that we get drunk that night and we do that one. That's going to be a wild one. I do think we maybe maybe instead of doing a deep dive with Digimortal, we'll do like a quick Fear Factory overview, like go from Demanufacture all the way through to, we can go to Archetype, we can go to Genexus, right? Yeah. We can just a quick Fear Factory cover off, which, by the way, the last album I really enjoyed. Genexus, I really enjoyed it.
So good.
Yeah, so back to Limp Bizkit, right, before we get back to Fear Factory. So the next song is one of, if not my favorite song of the album, Leech. And I think, Tim, in hindsight, the reason why it worked for me is because if you look at the sequencing, you're listening to Faith, you're laughing, he screams, get the fuck up, and it goes into a wild breakdown, which is totally unlike George Michael. Then you have forgettable track number 1, Stinkfinger. You have Indigo Flow, which is, again, guest musicians, blah, 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 blah. And then it goes, like that, sold. I'm fucking sold, dude. Sold. And again, maybe it's because I'm a big hardcore fan. The song's only 2 minutes. They get in, they get out. And I'm a big fan of getting in, dropping the fucking shit you got to drop, and then get the fuck out. Don't belabor the point.
Yeah, I do have written down it's one of the better tracks on the record. This is like a split for me because I think, from 6, 7 on, it's probably just a terrible record. But this is one of the better tracks in this, track listing. Is what I meant to say.
Yeah, great.
Well, why do they call it demo version though?
I don't know because I'm looking at Wikipedia where it calls it demo version, but I looked at my Google Music, which it syncs back to the Google server and it pulls down the data. Yeah. It doesn't say demo version, so I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
I guess that's something we could ask them if we ever get them on.
Can you imagine? Do we get like Fred Durst or Wes Borland on? I think I don't play guitar, and I think I would spend hours just listening to Wes talk about how he plays because I remember even when the first time I saw them live, being like, "This dude's got some fucking chops."
He does, man.
When's the first time you saw them live, Tim?
I've never seen Limp Bizkit live. I don't think.
What?
I don't think I have. No.
You're not going to believe this, but the first time I saw them live, Stone Pony, 97. opening for the Deftones.
Oh, okay.
In the fucking Pony, where they actually had a tent added on the back of the building because to the overflow. And I actually saw that. I saw that tour back to back. It was Deftones, Limp Bizkit, Will Haven. Where I'm not sure if we should dive on Will Haven, but those first couple albums are fucking wild.
Their new album is fucking good.
I don't remember the newest one, but I gotta go back to it. I saw it on a Saturday night in Asbury Park at the Stone Pony. My younger brother, who was in high school at the time, I went home that night. The next day, I came down to Philly, got to school, got to Rowan, picked up my roommates, and then went and saw it at the TLA. So I saw the show back to back. Fucking yeah, big fan. I think they do a great live show, and I remember the first time seeing Wes play and going, these guys got some fucking skill. Like they're not just Fred Durst, but they got some skill.
Yeah, the band behind him is very, very, very talented. Like I said, Sam is an incredible fucking bass player. And the drummer is just very like I was watching a lot of live videos of them last night, and I was just very impressed with the musicianship, of them. So yeah, like I said though, they wouldn't have been shit without Fred, to tell you the truth.
Nope, it's his attitude. It's the fucking Dickies and the red Nike hat. That's what sealed them.
Yeah, exactly.
And last track of the album is like 15 minutes of noise and samples and junk, right? It's called Everything. I'm just now looked at my Google Music history. I've never listened to the song completely because it doesn't even have one full play. It's a kind of throwaway, and
I think musically it's one of the better songs though, musically.
So I got to go back and listen to it, is what you're saying?
Yeah, just go back. Like, I actually listened to the whole thing because I actually put it on Friday again now that I'm remembering, because I had to recaulk my tub. So I was digging all that shit out and doing it. So I was like, let me listen to this record again since we're going to talk about it. It's got a good groove and bass drum work in it. And I mean, I didn't even remember that song from back in the day, honestly, because it was kind of new to me, to tell you the truth.
Neither do I. So speaking of final album tracks, bands that we might do a deep dive on, the final album track on Incubus's first album. Do you remember that? Science? They have a hidden track at the end where it's all samples and they fucking start joking about the Karate Kid, and it just resonates in my brain as being fucking insane. I don't remember listening to it when I was younger, but I put it on a couple of years ago, and all of a sudden they're talking about fucking Mr. Miyagi, and I'm going, dude, what the fuck am I listening to? I'm like, oh shit, this is still Incubus. So maybe we'll do that dive eventually. So Tim, taking it home, all in all, you like the first half, and then it just completely falls apart. Yes. I actually disagree. I think it actually has gotten better over time, and I really love it to the point where it's probably going to go in the steady rotation. We both can admit that no matter what our opinions, their impact on the genre was amazing. They've created a hell of a career for themselves. They're still knocking around. There's still another album yet to be released. Night of the Dance of the Disco Elephants or something.
Yeah, something crazy like that.
Which when we talk about in the next episode with Ross Robinson, I'm really looking forward to. And I think all things considered, if you like some of the stuff nowadays, let's tie it to newer stuff, right, Tim? So Vane just added a sampler and turntable guy. Right, not even turntable, but a sampler guy. Oh wow! You can see where those nods tie. Right, the Deftones have had a sampler guy, Frank Delgado, for multiple albums.
Since White, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So there is some genetic code in some of the stuff that we listen to now in the modern hardcore metal scene that does resonate back to this.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of people hate to admit it, kind of thing. I think they're like, oh, anything, because nu metal is a scared word in the metal community. Very sacred word also to some people like me, you know what I mean? But a lot of people are scared, that word, just that they go oh my God, did you just nu metal? And you see it as we put episodes out, people are kind of you could see who was listening to it back in the day, because they're going back and they're listening to the episode, because stat-wise, we see you're listening. So.
Yep. Even if you love us or hate us, we still love the downloads.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best way to end it. So if you're a fan of the show, we have, like Tim said earlier, We have an email, which is newbreedpodcast@gmail.com. We have a Facebook group. We're on Spotify. Tim and I, in the coming weeks, are going to start spinning up a whole bunch of playlists. We are on Instagram. We're on Twitter. We're on YouTube. We're going to actually throw up probably, I think, Tim, the video of this episode, we're going to throw it up on YouTube when we get around to it.
Yeah, episode 4, from episode 4 and above, it's all going to be on YouTube.
Awesome.
But yeah, before we do go, though, I do want to say I was surprised to see that Andy Wallace mixed this record, which is very surprising. You know
really?
Who Andy Wallace is.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I thought Ross did that kind of stuff, but he doesn't. So, yeah, Andy did that stuff. And also, real quick on the charts thing, so on the Billboard, it only reached number 22, which is very surprising to me. So that was in 98. It hit number 22. So, but also for Heat Seekers, you had number 1. So that, I mean, I guess that's a good feat right there. But then singles wise for Faith, it only hit number 33, which is fucking crazy.
Which is kind of nuts, right? That was everywhere. It was on MTV. You couldn't trip and fall without hearing it.
Exactly. And I was very surprised to see that. Like, only 33. Like, that's crazy, man.
But that also, Tim, I also think that that's also indicative of that time, right? This is the late 90s. This is when payola and pay to play, which these guys did with Counterfeit, was still around. You know, you had the recording industry pimping stuff that was, oh God, what was the big thing at 98? I was listening to nu metal and hardcore and metal. What was the big mainstream thing in 98?
Electronic music.
Oh, is that when it was starting? Okay.
Okay. Shit like that. I also have a couple other things right here before we go. So we'll be going in a couple minutes. I want to ask you a question real quick.
Shoot.
Was this a genre maker record? Do you think that was it Korn's first record, or was it this that kind of pushed the rap metal, nu metal genre into the stratosphere? Was it this record?
Korn established it. This cemented it. It was a 1-2 punch, I think. So Korn, right? That was so new and so bizarre and so different that people couldn't help get interested. But this coming right behind it and also having the success, again, same producer, same studio, just fucking filthy guitar tone. While I don't think if you made a pantheon of nu metal bands, I think Korn would always rank higher than Limp Bizkit, but Limp Bizkit is right behind them on their heels. And I don't know if the genre itself would have been as successful if it was just one and not both of them.
Yeah. That's pretty much how I feel about it too. Also, I know that we talked about Fred being hated, but is the whole band hated because of him? Because if you think about it, he was the most hated dude until Nickelback came out, honestly.
And everybody still hates Nickelback. And that douchey guy from Trapped, Jesus Christ, buddy, get off fucking Twitter. Danny Diablo's gonna find you and knock your fucking head off.
I know, it's funny, man.
I don't think so, because I think having a lead singer like that, Tim, is a double-edged sword, right? Because not only is this person creating PR and creating attention and creating people looking at you, he also runs the risk of going the other way, and he creates an archetype, a simulacrum of a lead singer that everybody can hate. And if they're hating about you, they're still talking about you.
That's true.
So I think that I honestly think, and I think you and I covered it fairly well, it's the band themselves are all talented. Even if you took him away individually, they all are very talented, but his presence, his douchebagginess or lack thereof is what helped vault them to the stratosphere.
Okay. I agree. All right, man.
All right. Any other final thoughts, Tim? You were well prepared this one, more prepared than me.
And I'm fucking happy because I don't feel like a jerk off this time. After the Korn ones, I was like, fuck, man. I should have really, really wrote down my thoughts on that. But I thought, since I liked them album so much. But it's funny because when you get in front of the mic and you see recording in the corner, you're like, fuck.
Shit, what was I going to say?
Yeah, it's kind of like when you go to record your band and you're like, your hand just doesn't work anymore. It's funny, man. But I do one more thing. But remember at Lollapalooza, like all the fires and raging and shit from
yes.
Yep. So we'll have to get into Significant Other and talk about all that.
Oh, we definitely. I have a laundry list off the side of stuff that is not only nu metal but nu metal adjacent, and maybe that becomes our thing. right? Where we just do some album deep dives and talk about them at a length where, most people do album deep dives and they talk about it in the aggregate. You and I go song by song, which is a little different.
Yeah. And before we go, people listening, man, hit up our email, newbreedpodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought of the episode. Comment on YouTube, all that stuff, man. Let us know what you think.
Absolutely. If there's a band you think, I was having a conversation, Tim, I think it's one of your buddies, about Stuck Mojo earlier today. But I love that album, Pig Walk. So if there's a band you think we completely ignore that doesn't get any love, let us know. If there's a band that you completely hate and you can't believe we talk about it, let us know. I have had multiple people say to me, why does Tim hate fucking System of a Down so much?
Can't stand them.
So maybe we do a deep dive on that album and I just want you to throw up into the microphone for 40 minutes.
Let's do it.
All right. So, Tim, once again, on behalf of Tim and myself, I want to thank everybody for listening. Tim already said newbreedpodcast@gmail.com, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. There's a Facebook group. We're on Spotify. Come find us. Come give us some feedback. What do you like? What do you not like? And until next time, this is the New Breed Podcast saying check you later.
Later.